This was the part where I was supposed to feel powerful. I'd just turned down a partnership with Kieran Thorne. The Kieran Thorne. Billionaire. Shark. The man who could buy my entire company with the loose change in his titanium-coated pockets. My team was cheering. We'd kept our independence. We'd won. My hands wouldn't stop shaking. Because I'd seen his eyes when I walked out. Not angry. Not even disappointed. Calculating. The email hit my inbox at 3:17 a.m. I was still at my desk, writing a nervous hi. From Kieran Thorne. Subject: the distance. The body was 2 lines. You needed an ecosystem, Sloan. So I bought one. Effective immediately, March Media belongs to me. Your new employment contract is attached. Be in my auditorium at 9 a.m. Don't be late. The screen blurred. My COO, Ben, burst into my office, face white. Sloan. Thorne Industries. They acquired Holden Media. Holden Media. Our biggest competitor. The company with the distribution network I'd just pitched him as essential. He didn't buy my company. He bought my entire world. And put a fence around it. My phone rang. Unknown number. I knew. I answered, my throat tight. I said nothing. His voice was like dark velvet, smoothed over steel. You said no to a partnership, Kieran Thorne said. A city hummed behind him. You never said no to me being your boss. The line went dead. I sat there. In the office, I'd painted myself. Surrounded by the ghost of every 90-hour week I'd ever worked. The framed first dollar I'd ever earned stared at me from the wall. It was now his dollar. The Thorne Industries auditorium looked like a spaceship. All curved glass and silent light. Every seat was filled with my new colleagues. The Holden staff. My own team, huddled together, looking shell-shocked. A door at the side of the stage opened. He walked out. Not to the podium. To the center of the stage. As if he owned the very air. Kieran Thorne in person was a physical shock. Taller. More present. A navy suit that looked painted on. He didn't need a microphone. The room just leaned in. Welcome, he said. His gaze swept the crowd, a lazy predator surveying new territory. It landed on me. Stopped. To the new Thorne Media Group. A screen lit up behind him. A new org chart. At the very top, Kieran Thorne, CEO. 1 level down, under Media Division, a box with 2 names. Holden Media. March Media. Side by side. Equals. And below that, a single name in bold. Head of Integrated Strategy, Sloan March. A promotion. A golden, gilded, absolutely humiliating promotion, wrapped just prettily enough that I couldn't refuse it without looking small. The room felt tilted. He wasn't just owning me, he was displaying me. His eyes held mine across the silent room. A challenge. A dare. You wanted to stand on your own, that look said. So stand. Right where I put you. The applause started. Polite. Confused. I didn't move. He gave the faintest nod. Just to me. And I knew, with a cold, sinking certainty. This wasn't revenge. This was the start of a very, very long game. And tomorrow, I would sit across from him and pretend he hadn't just dismantled my life. The silence in the auditorium broke into a chaotic buzz. People stood, gathering bags, turning to colleagues with wide eyes. My own team hovered near the back, a tight knot of panic. I had to get to them before the fear set in. Before they started updating their resumes. I pushed through the crowd, my heels clicking a frantic, steady rhythm on the polished floor. A hand closed around my elbow. Not rough. Not gentle. Absolute. The heat of his touch burned through my sleeve. I froze. A word, Sloan. Kieran's voice was low, for me alone. He didn't wait for an answer. He was already moving, his grip steering me toward a private door beside the stage. I had a choice, dig in my heels and make a scene in front of 300 people, or let him lead. I let him lead. The door shut behind us, muting the crowd noise to a distant hum. We were in a narrow, soundproofed hallway. Empty. He released my arm. I turned on him. Head of Integrated Strategy. My voice was a blade. Was that your idea of a joke? He leaned one shoulder against the wall, a picture of casual control. It was my idea of a solution. You need resources. I now own them. You want to prove your strategy works? Prove it. With the entire network at your disposal. You think this is me proving something? I laughed, the sound brittle. This is you holding my own ambition hostage. You made me a trophy. I made you indispensable. He pushed off the wall, closing the small space between us. He smelled like cold air and expensive sandalwood. The merger is a mess. Holden's systems are archaic, their culture is toxic. Your team is agile, but you're straining at capacity. You integrate them. You make this division work. That's the job. And if I refuse? He smiled. It wasn't warm. You won't. Because if you walk, your entire team gets absorbed into Holden's old guard. Their projects get scrapped. Their vision dies. You built them. Are you really going to abandon them to save your pride? The breath left my body. He'd calculated this. Of course he had. He'd found the one leverage I couldn't fight. My people. That's despicable. It's business, he corrected, his eyes glinting. And you're too good at it not to understand. He reached into his jacket and pulled out a single key card, black and matte. He held it out. Your new office. 42nd floor. Southeast corner. The view is better than the one you're used to. I stared at the card. A gilded cage with a view. I don't want a better view. Take it anyway. His fingers brushed mine as I snatched the card. A spark of static. Or something else. I curled my hand around it, the edges biting into my palm. Our first integration meeting is at 7 a.m. tomorrow. My office. Don't be late. He walked past me, back toward the door to the stage. He paused, hand on the knob. And Sloan? Wear the suit again. The charcoal one. It makes you look like you're already in charge. He was gone. I stood in the silent, empty hallway, the keycard a cold weight in my fist. My phone vibrated. A calendar alert, already synced to my phone. Meeting, integration kickoff. With Kieran Thorne. Location, Thorne Executive Office, floor 50. 7 a.m. He'd even put it on my calendar. Of course he had. I found my team in the lobby. Ben's face was pale. Sloan, what the hell is happening? I looked at their faces, my brilliant, loyal, terrified people. I straightened my shoulders. I forced my voice into a calm I didn't feel. We're going to work, I said. We're going to take everything he just gave us, and we're going to use it to build something so good, he'll regret ever thinking he could own it. It was a lie. A brave, beautiful lie. But I saw the spark catch in their eyes. Good. They needed the lie. I needed the rage. My new office was, as promised, obscene. A glass cube overlooking the city, furnished in minimalist whites and grays. A desk the size of a boat. A sitting area. A private bathroom. It was a space designed for someone important. A constant, gleaming reminder of who had deemed me important. I dropped my bag on the desk. My old, scuffed leather bag looked pathetic in here. I hated it. I hated all of it. A discreet silver box sat centered on the desk. No note. I lifted the lid. Inside, on a bed of black velvet, was a new tablet, sleek and thin. A company device. I pressed the power button. The screen lit up. The background was the new Thorne Media Group logo. It required a passcode. I typed in my usual one. It didn't work. I tried another. Denied. A notification popped up. Passcode provided via secure message. I opened the messaging app. Only one contact. KT. His message had come through 10 minutes ago. Passcode 0317. The time his acquisition email had hit my inbox. Of course. I entered the numbers. The tablet unlocked. The home screen was clean. Just a few folders. Integration files. Holden assets. March roadmap. And one loan document at the bottom. Employment contract. I opened it. My eyes scanned the legalese, landing on the compensation package. The salary number made my heart stutter. It was triple what I paid myself. The retention bonus was a number with 6 zeros. Vesting over 3 years. A golden chain, meticulously forged. At the very bottom, a signature line awaited. His was already there. A sharp, black, confident slash of ink. Kieran Thorne. He'd signed it. He'd signed it and left it for me, a test in a box. Sign and accept the chain. Refuse and abandon my team to the wolves. I put the tablet down. My reflection in the dark window looked back at me, a woman in a too-big office, holding a keycard to a cage. The intercom on the desk chimed, a soft, melodic sound. I jumped. I pressed the button. Yes, Ms. March. A woman's efficient voice. Mr. Thorne has asked that you join him in the executive lounge. There's a situation with the Holden leadership that requires your input. It's after 6, I said, my voice flat. I understand. He's waiting. The line went dead. He was waiting. Not asking. Telling. This was the rhythm. This was the game. I smoothed my hands down my suit. The charcoal one. The one that made me look like I was in charge. I walked out of my beautiful new office. Down the hall. Toward the man who owned the walls, the floor, and the very air I was breathing. And with every step, I repeated the lie, letting it harden into a shield. I'm going to make you regret this. But deep down, in a place I refused to acknowledge, another, more dangerous thought whispered. What if he never does? The executive lounge was a vault of glass and leather perched at the corner of the 50th floor. City lights sprawled below, a galaxy of distant, indifferent stars. Kieran stood at the window, his back to the door, a crystal tumbler loose in his fingers. He didn't turn when I entered. Holden's former CEO is threatening to sue. His voice was casual, as if discussing the weather. He claims the acquisition terms were coercive. He's taking it to the board. I stopped in the center of the room. That's not my problem. It becomes your problem if he blocks the asset transfer. Your team can't access Holden's distribution network until the legal dust settles. Your strategy dies on the vine. He turned. The lamplight carved sharp shadows under his cheekbones. I need you to talk to him. I laughed. Actually laughed. You want me to defend the man who just acquired me? I want you to explain to a 70-year-old media dinosaur that his golden parachute is fully funded and his legacy is intact. He's scared. He built that company from nothing, same as you. He needs to hear from someone who understands. The parallel landed like a blade between my ribs. Same as you. And if I refuse? He took a slow sip of his drink. You won't. Because you'll destroy my team? Because it's the right call. And you know it. Silence. The city hummed beyond the glass. I hated that he was right. I hated it more that he'd framed it as my choice when every exit was walled. One meeting, I said. Tomorrow. I'll handle the asset transfer agreements myself. He inclined his head. I never doubted you would. I turned to leave. Sloan. I stopped. Didn't face him. Your team. They trust you. His voice had shifted. Lower. Less certain. I saw them today. In the auditorium. They weren't panicking because the company was sold. They were panicking because they thought they'd lost you. My throat closed. Don't. Don't what? Don't pretend you care about them. You used them as leverage hours ago. A beat. Both things can be true. I turned. His expression was unreadable, but his grip on the glass had tightened. I can recognize excellence without being sentimental about it. Your team is excellent. You built that. It's not leverage. It's fact. I wanted to argue. I wanted to throw his words back at him, sharp and jagged. But the truth was, I'd spent 5 years making sure no one could use my people against me. And he'd found the crack anyway. Not because he was cruel. Because he was observant. That was worse. 7 a.m., I said. My office. Integration meeting. I walked out before he could respond. The hallway was empty, the silence thick as water. I pressed the elevator call button and stared at my reflection in the polished steel doors. Hollow-eyed. Furious. Something else underneath. Something that felt dangerously close to respect. The doors opened. I stepped inside. The elevator descended, a smooth, silent fall through 40 floors of expensive air. My phone buzzed. A new message. I knew who it was before I looked. Katie, the Holden CEO's name is Arthur. He has a grandson who wants to be a filmmaker. Mention it. He'll soften. I stared at the screen. This wasn't a power play. This was intelligence. Surgical, precise, actionable. He hadn't given me ammunition. He'd given me a bridge. I didn't reply. I also didn't delete the message. The meeting with Arthur Holden was scheduled for 11 a.m. in a private conference room at the Holden headquarters. Neutral ground. I arrived early, deliberately. I wanted the space. I needed to breathe air that didn't taste like Karen Thorne. Arthur was smaller than I expected. Stooped shoulders, liver-spotted hands, a head of silver hair meticulously combed. He looked at me like I was the undertaker come to measure his coffin. "You're the one he acquired," he said. No handshake. "I'm the one running the integration," I corrected, settling into the chair across from him. "Your asset transfer is being held hostage by your own lawsuit. That acquisition was hostile. It was inevitable. You were bleeding market share for 3 years. Your board was already shopping for buyers. Thorne just moved faster." His jaw tightened. "You think that makes it better?" "I think it makes it honest." I leaned forward. "You built this company in 1987. You started in your garage, same as I did. You took risks. You fought. You won. And now it's time to let go." His eyes flickered. "I'm not letting go. I'm being erased." "No," I pulled out the tablet, opened the file I'd prepared. "Thorne isn't liquidating Holden. He's absorbing your infrastructure, your distribution network, your archival content. Your name stays on everything you produced. Your legacy isn't being erased. It's being preserved." I paused. "Your grandson wants to be a filmmaker." Arthur's breath caught. "How do you? Thorne Media has a documentary division. They're currently producing a series on the history of independent filmmaking. Your grandson's senior thesis was about underground cinema in the 90s. It's relevant." I slid a business card across the table. "This is the head of development. She's expecting his call." Arthur stared at the card. His hands trembled. When he looked up, his eyes were wet. "Why are you doing this?" "Because the man I despise gave me the key and trusted me to use it." "I couldn't say that." "Because you deserved more than a footnote." He was silent for a long moment. Then he picked up the card. "I'll withdraw the lawsuit." "I know. And I'll sign the asset transfer." I prepared the documents. A sound escaped him. Half laugh, half grief. "You're good." "So are you," I said. "That's why this is hard." I left him sitting in the empty conference room, the business card clutched in his weathered fingers. My report to Karen was a single sentence. Me, lawsuit withdrawn. Transfer signed. Arthur's grandson gets a production internship. His response came immediately. "Katie, I never mentioned the internship." Me, "You mentioned the filmmaker." I extrapolated. 3 dots. Then, "Katie, dangerous habit." Me, "You hired me for it." A pause. Longer this time. "Katie, yes. I did." I locked my phone and pressed it against my chest. My heart was doing something irregular. I blamed the caffeine. I blamed the adrenaline. I blamed anything except the truth. Karen Thorne kept giving me weapons. And I kept forgetting they were aimed at me. The integration consumed the next 3 weeks. 18-hour days. Crashing systems, cultural clashes, a near revolt from Holden's legacy editors who resented being managed by a woman a decade their junior. I handled it. I rebuilt workflows, restructured teams, personally walked 3 senior executives through their retirement packages. I was everywhere. I was relentless. And every night, long after the office emptied, my phone would buzz with a single message. No pleasantries. No commentary. Just intelligence. "Katie, Holden's VP of Sales is privately interviewing. Offer him the consolidated regional director role before he leaves. Katie, your Q2 projections are conservative. Adjust the audience growth model. You're undervaluing Gen Z engagement. Katie, you haven't used the bathroom on your floor in 6 days. The facilities team is concerned." That last one made me choke on my coffee. Me, "Are you monitoring my bathroom habits?" Katie, "I'm monitoring the building maintenance reports." You're a data point. Me, "That's not less creepy." Katie, "It's not meant to be." I laughed. Actually laughed, alone in my glass cage at 3 in the morning. It was the first time I'd laughed in weeks. I caught myself. Erased the smile. Buried it under layers of suspicion. This was how he operated. He found the cracks. He slipped inside. He made you forget the cage was locked. I wouldn't forget. I couldn't. The Friday before the official merger announcement, Ben found me in the edit bay, reviewing a sizzle reel for the new brand identity. You need to sleep. I need this voiceover to sound less like a used car commercial. He sat on the edge of the console. Sloan. Talk to me. I didn't look up from the timeline. About what? About the fact that you're killing yourself to make his company successful. It's my company too now. Is it? His voice was gentle. Devastating. You didn't sign the contract. I stopped. The video froze on a frame of smiling, diverse employees. How do you know that? HR sent the signed copy to legal. Yours is still pending. Has been for 3 weeks. I closed the editing software. The screen went black. I'm not ready. Ready for what? Ready to admit that I'm staying here by choice. Ready to accept the golden chain and stop pretending it burns. Ready to make it permanent, I said instead. Ben studied me. He'd been with me since the beginning, since the cramped studio apartment where we'd coded the first version of March Media's content platform. He knew my tells. This isn't about the contract, he said. It's about him. I didn't answer. Sloan. You can't win a game against someone who isn't playing. He's always playing. Is he? Ben stood. Because from where I'm standing, he's been handing you victories for 3 weeks and taking none of the credit. That's not a player. That's a man trying to prove something. He walked out. I sat in the dark edit bay, surrounded by silent screens. My phone was in my hand before I consciously decided to pick it up. Me, why haven't you asked me to sign the contract? The response came in under a minute. Katie, because you already know where to find it. I stared at the words. No pressure. No ultimatum. Just waiting. He was waiting. For me. The realization hit like a wave, cold and disorienting. Kieran Thorne, who bought companies like other men bought watches. Kieran Thorne, who never waited for anything. He was waiting for me. I didn't sleep that night. At dawn, I walked to my office. Opened the silver box. Lifted the tablet. Navigated to the employment contract. My finger hovered over the signature line. The city was waking up beyond the glass, a slow bleed of gold into gray. I thought about Arthur Holden, clutching his grandson's future in his weathered hands. I thought about my team, their fear slowly hardening into trust. I thought about Kieran, alone in his penthouse office, waiting for an answer he refused to demand. I signed my name. The document saved. A notification appeared. Your contract has been accepted. A moment later, a new message. Katie, welcome aboard. Officially. Me, that's all you're going to say? 3 dots. Then, Katie, you made the choice yourself. That was the point. I set the tablet down. My hands were steady. My heart was not. And for the first time in 3 weeks, I didn't feel like I was standing on enemy ground. I just felt like I was standing. The merger announcement went live on a Tuesday. Press release, investor call, coordinated social media rollout. I stood at the back of the conference room while Kieran fielded questions from analysts, his voice steady, his answers precise. He credited the integration strategy to March Media leadership. Named me specifically. 3 times. The stock ticked up. The chat channel flooded with congratulations. I felt nothing. That was a lie. I felt everything, compressed so tight it registered as numbness. Sophie from my old team caught me in the hallway after. You're on the org chart now. Above the line. I saw. And it's a piece of paper with boxes. She studied me, head tilted. You're doing that thing where you pretend success doesn't matter. I'm not pretending. You're doing it right now. I didn't have an answer. She touched my arm. It's okay to want this, Sloan. It's okay to want him to see you. I pulled away gently. It's not about him. Sure, Sophie said, already walking backward. And lettuce is just salad. The first crack appeared on Thursday. A routine audit of Holden's legacy contracts uncovered something irregular. A licensing agreement with a third-party distributor signed 6 weeks before the acquisition. Unfavorable terms. Drastically unfavorable. The kind of terms that suggested someone had been paid to sign. I flagged it. Sent it to legal. Thought nothing else. Until Friday morning, when Kieran's assistant appeared at my door. Mr. Thorne needs you in his office. Immediately. His voice was different when I walked in. Not controlled. Edged. Close the door. I did. He was standing at the window, back to me. The same posture as the night in the executive lounge. But his shoulders were rigid now. The Holden contract you flagged. Yes. It's not an anomaly. It's a pattern. He turned. His face was carved from something harder than stone. Someone on the Holden board was systematically selling off assets at below-market rates. Royalty streams. Distribution rights. Intellectual property. They've been doing it for 18 months. Ice moved through my veins. How much? In direct losses? 8 figures. In long-term value. He paused. Potentially crippling. I sat down. Not because I wanted to. Because my legs stopped cooperating. Who? We don't know yet. The signatures are obscured. The paper trail was deliberately fragmented. He moved to the chair across from me. Saturday. For once, he wasn't looming. He was just present. This is why Holden was bleeding market share. Not because they were obsolete. Because they were being drained from the inside. And your acquisition? Overvalued. Possibly intentionally. His jaw tightened. Someone wanted me to buy a dying company at a premium. And I walked right into it. Silence. The weight of it pressed down, heavy and suffocating. You didn't know, I said. No. But you're responsible. A flicker in his eyes. Yes. I should have felt vindication. The great Kieran Thorne, outmaneuvered. The predator, trapped. Instead, I felt something else. Something that tasted like recognition. What do you need? His gaze sharpened. Excuse me. To fix it. What do you need? He studied me. The appraisal was different now. Less calculation. More confusion. You're not going to say, I told you so. You already know you made a mistake. Me saying it doesn't accomplish anything. Then what does it accomplish? I met his eyes. Finding out who did this. Containing the damage. Protecting the company. Protecting my team. Protecting the work. Protecting you. I didn't say the last part. But it was there, a living thing in the space between us. He sat back. The tension in his shoulders didn't release, but something shifted. Softened almost. The forensic accountants are tracing the contracts. It'll take weeks. Maybe months. That's too slow. I'm aware. The signatures were obscured. But someone authorized the payments. Someone signed off on the transfers. That paper trail exists. It exists, he agreed. But it's buried. The Holden board is circling wagons. They're claiming ignorance, blaming the previous administration. Arthur Holden is cooperating, but he was pushed out years before the embezzlement started. He doesn't have access to the current financials. I need to see the contracts. Why? Because I negotiated the asset transfer. I read every clause. There was an addendum about third-party licensing that fell off. I flagged it at the time, but legal said it was standard. His eyes narrowed. You remember this from 3 weeks ago? I remember everything. The words hung in the air, heavier than I intended. He didn't look away. Neither did I. The addendum, he said slowly. What did it say? I pulled up the mental file. Holden retained the right to modify existing licensing agreements without board approval for contracts valued under $500,000. It was buried in the boilerplate. I assumed it was administrative efficiency. It was a loophole. Deliberately written. Sized to fly under the radar. I stood, pacing now. Whoever did this knew the audit thresholds. They knew what would trigger a full investigation and what wouldn't. They kept it small. Incremental. 18 months of small, digestible losses that looked like market erosion instead of theft. They're still inside. Kieran's voice was flat. Whoever it is. They're still on the board or in senior leadership. They've been watching us integrate. Watching me take ownership of a poisoned asset. He stood, moved to the window. His reflection was ghostly against the city. They're not just thieves. They're saboteurs. The words settled between us, cold and final. I thought about my team. About the projects we'd launched, the strategies we'd implemented. About the smiling faces in the sizzle reel, now representing a company built on compromised ground. We need to move quietly, I said. If they realize we're onto them, they'll destroy the remaining evidence. Agreed. I need access to the Holden financial servers. Not through official channels. If legal gets involved, it triggers disclosure requirements. His reflection met my eyes. You're asking me to authorize unauthorized access. I'm asking you to decide how badly you want to catch them. A long pause. Then, there's a backdoor. Holden's old IT director installed it before he retired. He owed me a favor. Of course there was. I'll need someone who understands their accounting architecture. You. I stopped pacing. I'm not a forensic accountant. No. But you're the only person in this building who can read a contract like it's a confession. You found the pattern no one else saw. He turned from the window. You said you remember everything. Prove it. This was a test. A different kind of test. Not of loyalty. Of capability. Of partnership. If I do this, I said slowly, I'm not doing it for you. Then why? I didn't answer. I didn't have an answer that wouldn't unravel something I wasn't ready to name. I need the backdoor credentials, I said instead. And 48 hours. You have 24. 36. 30. Final offer. 30. He nodded once. I'll send the credentials. I walked to the door. My hand was on the handle when his voice stopped me. Sloan. I didn't turn. Thank you. 2 words. Delivered without calculation. Without leverage. Just gratitude. I left before I could analyze what it meant. 30 hours. No sleep. Just coffee, spreadsheets, and the cold blue glow of a screen I wasn't supposed to be on. The back door worked. Holden's financial architecture was a labyrinth, deliberately convoluted. I traced payment authorizations. Followed approval chains. Cross-referenced dates against board meeting minutes, executive travel schedules, public appearances. The pattern emerged slowly, then all at once. The same name. Not at the center, whoever did this was too smart for that. But at the edges. Always present, never conspicuous. A signature here. An approval there. A travel schedule that aligned perfectly with every major suspicious transfer. I sat back. My neck screamed. My eyes burned. I stared at the name on the screen. Helena Voss. Holden's chief operating officer. The woman who had welcomed me to the integration meetings with warm smiles and pointed questions about my inexperience with enterprise-scale operations. The woman who had privately offered to mentor me through the merger transition. I declined. Politely. She'd smiled. Said she understood. I'd thought nothing of it. Now I understood. The smile was relief. I saved the file. Encrypted it. Sent it to Karen with a single message. Me, it's Voss. She's been selling your company out from under you for 18 months. And she's still here. His response came in under 30 seconds. Katie, don't move. Don't tell anyone. I'm coming to you. I looked at the time. 2:47 a.m. The floor was empty. The city was asleep. I was wide awake, vibrating with the chemical cocktail of exhaustion and discovery. The door to my office opened. Kieran stepped inside, still in his suit jacket, tie pulled loose. He looked at the screen. At the evidence I'd assembled. At me. You did this in 29 hours. I had a deadline. His eyes tracked over the timeline, the authorization chain, the damning pattern of Helena Voss's careful, methodical theft. This is comprehensive. This is enough to bury her. Yes. He looked up. It's also enough to bury Holden. If this goes public, the brand is irreparably damaged. Investor confidence collapses. We lose the distribution network before we've fully integrated it. I'd already considered this. Then we don't go public. We go to her. With what? Leverage. With evidence. We give her a choice: resign quietly, cooperate with a confidential settlement, and face consequences that don't destroy the company she helped drain. Or we release everything and she spends the next decade in federal litigation. He studied me. That's mercy. That's pragmatism. No. His voice was soft. It's mercy. You caught her. You have the power to destroy her. And you're choosing not to. I looked away. She's 62. She's spent 30 years in this industry. If we do this publicly, that's her entire legacy. Irrelevant of what she did. You think she deserves mercy? I think I'm not her judge. Silence. Then, you're extraordinary. My head snapped up. His expression was open. Unguarded. No games. No calculation. Just a man looking at a woman he couldn't quite categorize. I don't know how to work with someone like you, he said. I've spent 20 years acquiring companies, restructuring leadership, winning. I've never encountered someone who wins and calls it mercy. I swallowed. Maybe you've been winning wrong. Maybe I have. His voice was barely audible. The air between us thickened. Charged. He was close. When had he gotten so close? His hand moved. Not toward me. Toward the screen. He closed the laptop. It's almost 3 in the morning. You haven't slept in 2 days. Neither have you. I'm used to it. He paused. You're not. I should have argued. I was tired. Too tired to build walls. There's a couch in my office, he said. It's more comfortable than it looks. I'm not sleeping on your couch. Then I'll have a car take you home. I still have work. The work will be here in 4 hours. It's not going anywhere. Neither are you. The thought surfaced unbidden. I crushed it. Fine. The couch. He nodded once. Led me through the dark corridors to his office. His private space. I'd never been inside. It was larger than mine. Warmer. Bookshelves lined one wall, filled with worn spines and technical journals. A single photograph on his desk, face down. I didn't ask. The couch was charcoal leather, deep and soft. I sat on the edge, suddenly uncertain. He retrieved a blanket from a cabinet. Placed it on the arm. There's a bathroom through that door. Towels in the closet. Thank you. He nodded. Moved to his desk. Saturday. Opened his laptop. The blue light illuminated his face, carving his features into something almost tender. You're not going to sleep either, I said. No. Then why are you making me? He didn't look up. Because someone should. I lay down. The leather was cool against my cheek. The blanket smelled like him, sandalwood and cold air. I should have hated it. I pulled it closer. I slept. When I woke, gray dawn was filtering through the windows. A cashmere throw had been draped over me, soft and heavy. My shoes were off, placed neatly beside the couch. His desk was empty. He was gone. But on the table beside me, a cup of coffee. Still hot. And a single sticky note. You were right. I've been winning wrong. I held the note for a long time. Then I folded it, small and precise, and slipped it into my pocket. The coffee was perfect. I hated that too. Helena Voss resigned on Monday. Quietly. Her letter cited personal reasons, the desire to spend more time with family. The board accepted with expressions of regret and gratitude. No investigation. No public statement. Just a carefully negotiated settlement that clawed back a significant portion of the stolen assets and bound her to strict non-disclosure. I wasn't at the meeting. Kieran handled it alone. But he sent me the settlement terms. Me, this is less than she owes. Katie, it's more than she expected. Me, mercy. Katie, pragmatism. I smiled at the screen. The first genuine, unguarded smile in weeks. Me, you're learning. Katie, I have an excellent teacher. I didn't reply. I also didn't stop smiling. The rest of the afternoon was a blur of meetings, emails, and the quiet satisfaction of a crisis contained. My team was thriving. Holden's legacy editors were slowly accepting the new workflow. The Q3 projections were, against all odds, exceeding expectations. I was packing up for the evening when Sophie appeared at my door. There's a car waiting for you downstairs. I didn't order a car. It's black. Tinted windows. The driver is wearing a suit. She raised an eyebrow. Very mysterious billionaire energy. My heart stuttered. Tell them I'm busy. I already did. He said he's not leaving until you come down. He. Not a driver. I took the elevator slowly, deliberately. Told myself I wasn't rushing. The car was parked in the loading zone, sleek and anonymous. The rear window rolled down. Kieran looked up at me, his face half-shadowed. Get in. Why? Because I'm asking. Not telling. A pause. Asking. I got in. The interior was warm, smelling of leather and his cologne. He didn't speak. The car pulled away from the curb, merging into evening traffic. We drove in silence. Not uncomfortable. Expectant. The city streamed past, a river of glass and light. Where are we going? I asked. Somewhere neutral. That's not an answer. It's the only one I have. We stopped at a red light. He turned to face me. In the dim interior, his eyes were dark, unreadable. You signed the contract. You knew that. Yes, but I didn't know why. The light changed. The car moved forward. I need to understand, he said. Did you sign because you felt trapped? Because your team needed you? Or because you wanted to stay? The question hung in the air, fragile and enormous. I could lie. I could deflect. I could give him the clean, professional answer that protected us both. All of it, I said. The team. The work. The challenge. I paused. And you? His breath caught. Audible. Vulnerable. I don't know what to do with that, he admitted. I don't know how to be someone who's chosen. I've only ever been needed. Needed and chosen aren't the same thing. No. His voice was rough. They're not. We drove in silence for another 10 minutes. The city gave way to older streets, tree-lined and quiet. The car stopped in front of a small restaurant, its windows glowing amber. No sign. No valet. Just a door. This is the place, he said. The place with readable prices? No prices at all. It's private. Of course it was. What are we doing here? He turned to me. I'm asking you to dinner. Not as your boss. Not as a negotiation. Just dinner. His jaw tightened. You can say no. I thought about all the ways this could go wrong. The power imbalance. The office gossip. The careful distance I'd maintained for weeks, now crumbling at the edges. I thought about his hand on my arm in the auditorium. His messages at 3 a.m. The blanket on his couch. The note in my pocket. Yes, I said. He blinked. Yes. Yes, I'll have dinner with you. Yes, I'm choosing to be here. I opened the car door. Don't make me regret it. I won't. His voice was quiet. Certain. I've spent my whole life acquiring things, Sloane. I don't know how to do anything else. He stepped out, met me on the sidewalk. The restaurant door glowed behind him. But I don't want to acquire you. I want you to stay because you want to. The city hummed around us, indifferent to the weight of his words. I looked at him, this man who had dismantled my life and rebuilt it, who had trapped me in a golden cage and then handed me the key, who was, in this moment, more uncertain than I had ever seen him. Then stop trying to win, I said, and start showing up. He held my gaze. I can do that. Good. I walked past him, through the amber door. After a moment, I heard his footsteps behind me. Following. Not leading. For the first time, following. Dinner was slow in the way that mattered. No agenda. No board members waiting in the wings. Just a small private room, a table set for two, and the weight of something unspoken finally given air. He didn't try to impress me with wine knowledge. He asked what I liked and ordered it. Pinot Noir, medium body, nothing pretentious. I noticed he didn't drink. Just water, his fingers wrapped around the glass, watching me like I was a text he was still learning to translate. You're doing it again, I said. What? Analyzing me. A pause. I'm not sure I know how to stop. Try. He set down the glass. Leaned back. The hard lines of his face softened, just slightly. You're wearing the suit. I looked down at the charcoal jacket, the same one from the first pitch. It's my only good one. It's not. You have 3 others in your office closet. I've seen them. My fork stopped midair. You've seen my office closet? I had the furniture installed. I saw everything. He said it without apology. Without calculation. Just fact. The beige one has a loose button on the left cuff. You should have maintenance fix it. I set down my fork. You're telling me you personally inspected my wardrobe. I'm telling you I notice things. His gaze held mine. I've always noticed things about you. The waiter arrived with the first course. I used the interruption to breathe. To reassemble the composure, he kept dismantling with simple, devastating observations. The Holden situation, I said, redirecting. Voss's settlement. How did she take it? Poorly. She threatened to fight. Then she reviewed the evidence you assembled and decided cooperation was preferable. He picked up his fork, examined the dish without interest. She asked who had caught her. I told her it was the new head of integrated strategy. What did she say? She said she underestimated you. His eyes met mine. She won't make that mistake again. A beat of silence. Then, softer. Neither will I. I didn't know what to do with that. So I ate my dinner. The food was excellent. I barely tasted it. We talked about the integration, the Q3 forecasts, the documentary division's progress on Arthur Holden's grandson's project. Safe territory. Professional. The walls we both knew how to navigate. But underneath, something else was building. A current. A pull. He paid without showing me the bill. I didn't protest. Some battles weren't worth fighting. Outside, the car waited. The night air was cool, carrying the first hint of autumn. He walked me to the door, his hand hovering near my lower back but not touching. Respectful. Deliberate. I'll have the driver take you home. What about you? I have a car following. Of course he did. This was. I paused, searching for the right word. Different. Good different. I don't know yet. Honesty. He deserved that much. He nodded slowly. Then we'll do it again until you decide. Not a question. Not a demand. Just a statement of intent. I stepped into the car. The door closed. Through the tinted glass, I watched him stand on the sidewalk, hands in his pockets, watching me leave. He didn't move until the car turned the corner. The next morning, a garment bag arrived at my office. Inside, the beige blazer, left cuff perfectly repaired. No note. I hung it in my closet. Didn't acknowledge it. Didn't stop thinking about it. Sophie noticed. Sophie always noticed. That's new. It's repaired. By whom? I didn't answer. Her smile was infuriating. The lettuce saga continues. It's not a saga. It's absolutely a saga. Chapter 1, The Car Window. Chapter 2, The Broken Heel. Chapter 3, The Mysterious Case of the Repaired Blazer. She mimed flipping pages. Very erotic. You're fired. You can't fire me. I know where the bodies are buried. She winked and walked away. I looked at the blazer. Touched the repaired cuff. The stitching was perfect. Invisible almost. He'd noticed a loose button. He'd had it fixed. He hadn't told me. Something shifted in my chest. Something I was very, very tired of naming. The weeks that followed were a careful dance. Dinners, always after work, always at places he chose, not for opulence, but for privacy. Conversations that started with quarterly reports and ended with childhood memories. He'd grown up in a house that was too big and too empty. A father who measured love in achievements. A mother who left when he was 12 and never looked back. I learned early that if you want something, you take it, he said one night, watching rain trace patterns on the window. No one was going to give me anything. So I stopped waiting. And now? Now I'm learning that some things can't be taken. His gaze shifted to me. They have to be received. The rain continued its slow descent. I didn't move. Neither did he. I don't know how to receive, I admitted. I've spent 10 years building armor. Letting someone in feels like surrender. It's not. His voice was quiet. Surrender is what you do when you've lost. This is something else. What? Trust. The word hung between us, fragile and immense. I wanted to reach for it. I wanted to run. Instead, I stayed. I'll work on it, I said. That's all I'm asking. The invitation arrived via encrypted message on a Thursday. Not from Kieran. From a name I didn't recognize. Helena Voss requests a meeting. Neutral location. Your terms. I stared at the screen. She'd been silent since the settlement. No public statements. No social media presence. Just gone. Now this. I forwarded it to Kieran. His response was immediate. Katie, don't go. Me, I need to know what she wants. Katie, leverage. Manipulation. Revenge. Me, or information. Katie, too dangerous. Me, then come with me. 3 dots. Then, Katie, when and where. We met at a coffee shop in Brooklyn. Unremarkable. Unbranded. Helena Voss sat in a corner booth, her silver hair pulled back, her face stripped of the corporate warmth she'd worn during the merger. She looked older. Smaller. When she saw Kieran beside me, Her expression flickered. Surprise. Then acceptance. You brought backup. You brought secrets, I said. We're even. She nodded slowly, gestured to the seats across from her. We sat. I'm not here to fight, she said. I lost. I accepted the terms. This isn't about overturning anything. Then what is it about? She looked at me. Not at Kieran. At me. You found what took my team 18 months to hide. In 30 hours. A pause. I wanted to understand how. I said nothing. I've spent 30 years in this industry, she continued. 30 years watching men like him, a glance at Kieran, neutral, not hostile, acquire and dismantle and walk away richer. I told myself I was just taking back what was owed. What they would have taken anyway. Her hands wrapped around her coffee cup. I don't expect forgiveness. I don't deserve it. But I need you to know I didn't start this way. I became this way. Slowly. One justification at a time. She looked up. You're at the beginning of that road. You have power now. Real power. Not just the title, but the capacity to influence. To decide who rises and who falls. Her gaze was steady. Don't become me. Silence. The coffee shop hummed with ambient noise, steam wands, murmured orders, the comfortable anonymity of strangers. I thought about the contract I'd signed. The team that trusted me. The man beside me, silent and watchful. I won't, I said. Helena nodded. She stood, pulled a folded envelope from her coat, placed it on the table. The rest of what I took. I couldn't return it through legal channels without triggering an investigation. This is cash. Donations in your name to organizations that support women rebuilding after corporate restructuring. She paused. It's not redemption. It's just what I owed. She walked out. The door swung shut behind her. I stared at the envelope. Kieran didn't speak. Didn't touch it. Just waited. She wanted me to see, I said slowly. Where it leads. What it looks like at the end. Yes. Is that why you brought me here? To show me the alternative? A beat. No. I brought you here because you asked me to. He met my eyes. I don't get to decide what you learn or who you become. That's yours. I picked up the envelope. It was heavy. I didn't open it. I didn't need to. Take me home. I said. He nodded. We walked out together. The donations were made anonymously the next morning. I routed them through a trust, no traceable connection to March Media or Thorn Industries. Not for Helena's protection. For mine. I didn't want her name attached to my conscience. Sophie found me in the edit bay that afternoon, staring at a frozen timeline. You've been sitting there for 40 minutes. I'm thinking. About? Whether intention matters more than outcome. She sat on the console. That's a Tuesday question. It's a Thursday question. Fair. She studied me. You're thinking about her. The Voss woman. I didn't deny it. She did terrible things. But she wasn't a monster. She was just tired. Cornered. Convinced herself that survival required predation. And you're afraid that's you. I looked at my reflection in the dark screen. I'm afraid it could be. Sophie was quiet for a long moment. Then, the difference isn't in the mistakes you make. It's in what you do after. She touched my shoulder. You caught her. You could have destroyed her. You didn't. That's not predation. That's something else. What? Integrity. She stood. Now stop brooding and finish this edit. The documentary team needs the rough cut by Monday. She walked out. I turned back to the timeline. Started cutting. The work was steady. Clean. The footage told a story about independent filmmakers in the 90s, their struggles, their triumphs. Arthur Holden's grandson had helped source the archival material. His name scrolled in the credits, associate producer. I thought about Helena Voss alone in her Brooklyn coffee shop. I thought about Kieran, learning to ask instead of take. I thought about myself, suspended between the woman I'd been and the woman I was becoming. I kept cutting. The story wasn't finished. Neither was mine. Friday night. His apartment. The first time he'd invited me, and the first time I'd accepted. It was not what I expected. No museum-quality art. No aggressive modern furniture. Just warm wood, soft lighting, bookshelves crowded with worn paperbacks. A kitchen that looked used, not staged. He was making pasta. Actual pasta, not ordered from a private chef. His sleeves were rolled up, his hair slightly disheveled. He looked human. "You cook," I said, standing in the doorway. "Badly, but consistently." He gestured with a wooden spoon. "Have a seat. Or don't." "I'm not great at hosting." I sat at the small kitchen island. Watched him navigate the stove with the same focused intensity he brought to board meetings. "You don't have a dining room. I don't have guests. You have me." A pause. His back was to me, but I saw his shoulders shift. "Yes, I have you." The pasta was, as promised, not exceptional. But it was hot, and he'd made it himself, and that mattered more than Michelin stars. We ate at the island. Talked about everything and nothing. His voice was different here. Lower. Less armored. "My mother called," he said, casual, as if discussing quarterly projections. First time in 8 years. I set down my fork. What did she want? To apologize. Not for leaving. For not coming back. His gaze was distant. I didn't know what to say. "What did you say?" "Nothing." I listened. He paused. Then I asked if she was okay. The simplicity of it. The mercy. "You're better at this than you think," I said. "At what?" "Choosing people. Even when they didn't choose you first." He looked at me. Something shifted in his eyes. Something raw. "I'm trying." "I know." Silence. The city hummed beyond the windows. I reached across the island. My hand covered his. He didn't move. Didn't speak. Just turned his palm up and held on. We stayed like that for a long time. The pasta cooled. The night deepened. Neither of us let go. The merger integration hit its first major milestone in November. Unified systems, cross-trained staff, a Q4 forecast that finally reflected the combined entity's potential. The board approved the next phase of expansion. Kieran announced it at the all-hands meeting, standing at the same podium where he'd unveiled my promotion months ago. This time, he didn't look at the crowd. He looked at me. This success belongs to the woman who rebuilt this division from the ground up. Who took a poisoned asset and turned it into our strongest performer. Who taught me that winning isn't the same as leading. A pause. Sloan march. The applause was genuine. Sustained. My team cheered. Sophie was actually crying. I stood frozen, something hot and unfamiliar pressing behind my ribs. Recognition. Not as a trophy. As an architect. Afterward, he found me in the hallway. "You didn't warn me." It wasn't a warning. It was acknowledgement. "You could have acknowledged me in private." "I could have." He stepped closer. "But I wanted everyone to see. Including you." His voice dropped. "You're not a line item on my portfolio, Sloan. You never were." I should have deflected. Made a joke. Rebuilt the distance. Instead, then what am I? He looked at me. The hallway emptied around us, colleagues drifting back to their desks. "I don't know yet. But I'd like to find out." A beat. Together. The word landed like a stone in still water. Ripples spreading outward, impossible to contain. Together, I repeated. "Yes." His hand found mine. Brief. Electric. Then he stepped back. "Now get back to work. We have a Q5 expansion to plan." He walked away. I stood in the empty hallway, my fingers tingling. Sophie appeared beside me, materializing from some hidden vantage point. "Did he just ask you out in corporate speak?" "I don't know what just happened." "That's a yes." She patted my arm. "Very on brand for both of you. Emotionally constipated power couple energy. You're still fired. You never actually fire me. It's our thing." She walked off, humming. I stayed in the hallway a moment longer. Then I went back to my office. There was work to do. But I was smiling. I couldn't seem to stop. December brought the first snow. Heavy, relentless, the kind that shut down streets and stranded commuters and turned the city into something quieter, softer. I was in my office, reviewing the documentary team's final cut when the power flickered and died. Emergency lights kicked in, casting everything in pale amber. My laptop battery held, but the network was down. Work, for once, was impossible. My phone buzzed. "Katie, roof. 20 minutes. Dress warm." I found a coat in my closet. Took the stairs to the top floor, then the private access to the roof. He was there, standing at the edge, snow collecting on his shoulders. The city spread below, muffled and white. "The power will be back in an hour," he said. "I wanted you to see this first." I moved to stand beside him. The snow fell steadily, erasing the sharp edges of skyscrapers, transforming glass and steel into something almost gentle. "It's beautiful," I said. "Yes." He wasn't looking at the city. He was looking at me. I turned. The snow caught in his hair, dusted his eyelashes. He looked younger like this. Less certain. More present. Kieran. Sloane. No games. No leverage. Just his hand, finding mine. Just the snow, falling between us and around us and on us, patient and endless. "I don't know how to do this," he said. "I've spent 20 years acquiring things. You can't acquire a person. You can't acquire trust. You can't acquire," he stopped. Started again. "I don't want to acquire you. I want to deserve you. And I don't know if I can learn that." The snow continued its slow descent. I thought about the first email. The auditorium. The contract I'd signed in the gray dawn. The dinners and the repairs and the coffee he'd left hot beside his couch. I thought about Helena Voss alone in a coffee shop, warning me not to become her. I thought about his mother's phone call and the mercy in his voice when he asked if she was okay. "You're already learning," I said. "You're here. You're asking. You're not taking." I squeezed his hand. "That's enough for now. And later, we figure it out together." He was quiet. The snow accumulated on his shoulders, his hair, the careful architecture of his suit. Then, together. Not a question. A promise. We stayed on the roof until the power returned and the city blazed back to life, indifferent to the two figures at its edge. But for that hour, in the snow and the silence, we were the only people in the world. And that was enough. The documentary premiered in January. Small theater, private screening. Arthur Holden sat in the front row, his grandson beside him, both of them watching the screen with identical expressions of awe. The film was good. Really good. The director thanked the archival team, the production staff, and Sloane March, who believed in this project before it had a budget. Applause. Arthur Holden caught my eye across the room. Nodded once. I nodded back. Kieran was beside me, his arm a careful inch from mine. Not touching. Present. "You did this," he said quietly. "The team did this. You gave them the resources. The space. The mandate." He paused. "You gave them permission to be excellent." I looked at him. The theater lights were low, casting his face in shadow. "So did you." A beat. "We're a good team." It was the closest either of us had come to naming it. The thing that was growing between us, patient and persistent. Not an acquisition. Not a surrender. Something else. Something we were building together. "Yes," I said. "We are." His hand found mine in the dark. I didn't pull away. The credits rolled. The audience applauded. And for the first time, I wasn't waiting for the other shoe to drop. I was just here, present, choosing it. The film ended. The lights came up. We walked out together, still holding hands. No one noticed. Or maybe they noticed and didn't care. Either way, it didn't matter. What mattered was that I didn't let go. And neither did he. The documentary premiere rippled through the industry. Accolades, acquisition offers for the production team, a quiet buzz that March Media wasn't just surviving the merger, it was becoming the creative spine of Thorne's entire media division. I fielded the attention the way I'd learned to field everything, deflecting credit downward, absorbing pressure upward, keeping my eyes on the work. Kieran watched. Said nothing. But his silence had changed. It wasn't surveillance anymore. It was space. Sophie clocked it immediately. "He's giving you room. He's giving me nothing. He's doing his job. He's doing his job from 3 floors away when he used to manufacture reasons to be on your floor every hour." She bit into an apple with theatrical nonchalance. "That's not corporate restructuring. That's courtship." I didn't dignify that with a response. I also didn't deny it. February arrived, gray and interminable. The integration was complete, the system stable, the culture finally coalescing into something functional. I should have felt victorious. Instead, I felt restless. The work that had consumed me for 6 months was, for the first time, under control. Control. Such a fragile concept. Ben found me in the edit bay at 9 p.m., staring at a completed project schedule with nothing left to add. You're hovering. I'm monitoring. You're hovering. Go home. Read a book. Have a life. I have a life. Work isn't a life. It's a habitat. He sat on the console edge, a familiar weight. When's the last time you saw him outside a boardroom? I didn't answer. That's what I thought. His voice gentled. You built something here, Sloane. You don't have to keep building to prove it matters. Sometimes you just live in it. I closed the laptop. Since when did you become a philosopher? Since I watched my best friend spend 6 months proving herself to a man who already bought the company. He stood. He's not testing you anymore. You passed. Now you're just hiding. I'm not hiding. You're not showing up either. He walked to the door. Think about it. I thought about it. For 3 days, I thought about nothing else. On the 4th day, I walked to his office. No agenda. No crisis. No carefully constructed professional pretext. Just me. His assistant looked up, startled. Ms. March. Do you have an appointment? No. But he'll see me. She didn't argue. Probably because I didn't give her room to. I opened the door. Kieran was at his desk, reading something on his tablet. He looked up. His expression shifted surprise, then something warmer, then carefully neutral. Sloane. Is everything. I'm not here about work. A pause. He set down the tablet. Then what are you here about? I don't know yet. I closed the door behind me. Ben says I'm hiding. Sophie says I'm emotionally constipated. I think I'm just tired. Of always being strategic. Of measuring every word. Of pretending I stopped. His eyes held mine. Patient. Waiting. Of pretending I don't want to be here, I finished. Not the office. Here. With you. Silence. The city hummed beyond the glass. Then he stood. Walked around the desk. Stopped in front of me, close enough that I could smell sandalwood and cold air and the particular scent of him that had somehow become familiar. You're not hiding, he said. You're protecting yourself. There's a difference. Is there? Yes. Hiding is fear. Protection is survival. His voice was low. You've spent a decade surviving. It's not easy to stop. Did you stop? A beat. No. But I'm trying. His hand moved, hovered near my arm. I told myself I wouldn't push. Wouldn't pressure. Wouldn't repeat the same mistakes. If you needed space, I'd give it. If you needed time, I'd wait. And if I need you to stop waiting? His breath caught. Audible. Vulnerable. Then I stopped waiting. I closed the distance. The kiss was not gentle. It was 6 months of tension and territory and the slow, excruciating burn of wanting something you've been trained not to take. His hands found my face, my hair, my waist, not claiming, just holding. Like I was something precious he was afraid to break. I wasn't afraid. I was done waiting. Tell me this isn't a mistake, he murmured against my mouth. It's not a mistake. Tell me you're not going to wake up tomorrow and decide this was a professional lapse. I'm not going to wake up tomorrow and decide that. Tell me. I kissed him again. Harder. Stop asking for permission. You already have it. He laughed, a broken, disbelieving sound. I don't know how to do this without a contract. Then learn. I pulled back, just enough to see his face. We learned together. That was the deal. His thumb traced my jaw. Gently. Reverently. Together, he repeated. Yes. We stayed there, in the center of his office, the city sprawling beneath us. No agenda. No strategy. Just 2 people finally showing up. The next morning, I woke to a message. Katie, today I'm going to smile at you in the hallway and not care who sees. Me, that's your romantic gesture? Katie, I also had your coffee order memorized and your preferred brand of pens stocked in the supply closet. Me, that's actually very romantic. Katie, I know. I'm learning. I smiled at my phone. Alone in my apartment, the gray February light filtering through curtains I rarely opened. I was still smiling when I walked into the office. Sophie saw it immediately. Oh my God. Good morning. You have the face. I don't have a face. I have a professional demeanor. You have the post-kiss glow. I know it. I've manifested it for you for months. She grabbed my arms. Was it good? Of course it was good. He looks like he was carved by Renaissance artists and also probably has a secret emotional depth. Tell me everything. No. Did he say, I've waited my whole life for you? Did he say you're not like other women? Did he smiled at me in the hallway and said he stocked my pens. Sophie stared at me. That's it. That's it. That's actually really sweet. She released my arms. I hate that I find that sweet. I wanted drama. Betrayal. A secret love child. But no, he stalked your pens. Pens, I agreed. Very romantic. She squinted at me. You're making fun of me, but you're also glowing. This is very confusing. Welcome to my life. I walked to my office. The hallway seemed brighter. The coffee in my hand was exactly as I liked it. And when I passed Kieran near the elevator, he didn't pretend to be studying his phone. He smiled. I smiled back. 2 colleagues passed between us, oblivious. It didn't matter. The smile was ours. March brought the board meeting. I'd attended these before, always as support staff, always in the second row. This time, my name was on the agenda. Q1 Integration Report. S. March, Head of Integrated Strategy. Kieran had warned me it would be contentious. Holden's remaining board members were still nursing wounds from the acquisition. Voss's quiet departure had raised questions, even without public answers. And there was a new player at the table, a man named Prescott, recently appointed, aggressively ambitious. Prescott wants my seat, Kieran said the night before. We were at his apartment, the city glittering beyond the windows. His fingers were laced through mine, a habit we developed without discussion. He's been consolidating support for 6 months. This meeting is his first public play. What does he want? Control of the media division. Specifically, your department. His jaw tightened. He thinks creative assets should report directly to the board, not through Thorn Industries leadership. He wants to dismantle the integration structure and absorb March Media into a traditional content hierarchy. My blood chilled. He wants to dissolve everything we built. He wants to own it. Kieran's grip tightened. I won't let that happen. You can't control the board. No, but I can fight. He turned to face me. And I can be honest with you about the stakes, which is more than I've done in the past. This was new. This vulnerability, offered freely. Not as leverage, not as manipulation. Just truth. Tell me, I said. All of it. He did. Prescott's history of hostile takeovers. His pattern of acquiring creative companies and stripping them for intellectual property. His personal animosity toward Kieran, stemming from a deal 5 years ago that Prescott lost and never forgave. He's not after Thorn Media, Kieran concluded. He's after me. Your division is just the battlefield. And March Media? Collateral damage. His voice was quiet. Unless we stop him. We sat in silence. The city moved below, indifferent to the war being waged in a penthouse 40 floors above. What do you need from me? I asked. Your report. Your data. Your credibility. He met my eyes. You've built something undeniable, Sloan. Even Prescott can't argue with your numbers. If you present the integration as a success, which it is, he loses his primary argument. And if he attacks me directly, I'll be there. No hesitation. And I won't let him. It should have felt like protection. Instead, it felt like partnership. Okay, I said. Then we fight. The boardroom was a cathedral of power. Dark wood, long table, 12 chairs filled with men and women who controlled billions. I sat at the far end, my tablet ready, my spine straight. Kieran opened with the quarterly financials. Strong growth, improved margins, successful integration milestones. Prescott listened with a faint, patronizing smile. Then, thank you, Kieran. Impressive numbers. He turned to me. But numbers don't tell the whole story, do they, Ms. March? I'd like to hear about the cultural integration, the staff retention rates, the creative output metrics that don't appear on a balance sheet. He was testing me. Looking for weakness. I stood. Our retention rate is 94%, which exceeds industry average by 18 points. Creative output has increased 32% since the merger, with 2 original properties currently in development for national distribution. Staff satisfaction surveys show a 22% improvement in workplace morale, with particular gains among legacy Holden employees who reported feeling valued and integrated for the first time in 3 years. I paused. Those metrics aren't on the balance sheet because they're not liabilities. They're assets. Human capital. The kind of investment that pays dividends in innovation and loyalty, not just quarterly returns. Prescott's smile thinned. Charming. But sentiment doesn't scale. No, but trust does. I held his gaze. Your proposed restructuring would dismantle the very framework that produced these results. You're not offering improvement. You're offering reversal. And the board would be wise to ask why. Silence. A woman at the far end of the table. I recognized her as an institutional investor with significant holdings, shifted in her chair. Ms. March raises a fair point. Mr. Prescott, perhaps you could elaborate on the projected benefits of your alternative structure. Prescott's mask slipped. Just slightly. Enough. Of course. The benefits are, he talked for 10 minutes. His arguments were polished but hollow. Projections based on assumptions, not data. Assumptions that didn't account for the specific value of the integration I'd built. When he finished, the room was quiet. Kieran didn't speak. He didn't need to. The institutional investor looked at me. Ms. March, does your team have the capacity to maintain these metrics under the current structure? Yes. And if we were to consider expansion, additional acquisitions, new verticals, would your integration model adapt? Yes. I didn't hesitate. The framework is scalable. We've already stress-tested it against 3 hypothetical acquisition scenarios. I can provide those projections. She nodded. Once. I'd like to see them. The meeting continued. Prescott retreated, recalculating. Kieran remained silent, letting my work speak for itself. When it was over, the board approved continued funding for the media division's current structure. Unanimous. Prescott left without speaking to either of us. I in the hallway. Kieran caught my arm. His grip was gentle, but his eyes were fierce. You just won against a man who's spent 30 years learning how to win. I presented data. You presented yourself. His voice was low. You were undeniable. I should have deflected. Made a joke. Rebuilt the distance. Instead, that's because you gave me something worth defending. His expression shifted. Opened. Sloan, Mr. Thorne. His assistant appeared, apologetic. I'm sorry to interrupt, but there's an urgent call. Legal department. They said it's critical. He didn't move. His eyes stayed on mine. I'll be there in a moment. His voice was steady, but his grip on my arm lingered. Then, reluctantly, he released me. Don't leave. I need to talk to you. I'll be in my office. He nodded. Walked away. I watched him go, something tight and warm expanding in my chest. I waited 3 hours. He didn't come. At 7 p.m., I sent a message. Me, everything okay? No response. At 9 p.m., I walked to his office. Dark. Empty. His assistant had gone home. I called. Voicemail. I told myself it was work. A crisis. The legal department's urgent call had become a fire that demanded containment. He'd explain tomorrow. I didn't sleep. At 6 a.m., an email arrived. From Kieran Thorne. Subject, Immediate Board Resolution. Asterisk, the following resolution has been filed by the Board of Directors, effective immediately. 1. Thorne Media Group's creative divisions will be restructured under independent leadership reporting directly to the board. 2. Sloan March is hereby reassigned from her position as Head of Integrated Strategy to Senior Advisor, Creative Development. This is a non-executive role with no operational authority. 3. Day-to-day management of the media division will transfer to an interim director pending permanent appointment. This resolution has been approved by majority vote. Your new reporting structure will be communicated by HR within 24 hours. Kieran Thorne. CEO, Thorne Industries. Asterisk, I read it 3 times. Then I read the signature line again. Kieran Thorne. His name. His approval. His betrayal. My hands were shaking. The screen blurred. I set the tablet down carefully, precisely, as if it might shatter. He'd said he would fight. He'd said he wouldn't let Prescott win. He'd held my arm in the hallway and looked at me like I was the only person in the world. And then he'd signed the resolution that stripped me of everything. The anger came first. White-hot and familiar. Then the grief. Don't leave. I need to talk to you. He'd known. When he said those words, he'd already known what was coming. He'd already made his choice. And he'd let me stand in front of the board and defend work he was about to dismantle. My phone buzzed. Katie, Sloan. I can explain. I stared at the message. Then I blocked his number. I didn't go to the office. I couldn't. The thought of walking through those doors, past my team, past the glass office where I'd signed his contract and actually believed, that we were building something together. I stayed in my apartment. The gray March light pressed against the windows. My phone was a dead weight on the table. I'd unblocked him twice, checked for messages, found nothing, blocked him again. Childish. I didn't care. Sophie arrived at noon with coffee and a face that said she already knew. Ben called me. He saw the HR distribution list. She set the cup in front of me. What are you going to do? I don't know. Are you going to talk to him? I laughed. It was not a pleasant sound. He sent an email. A form email. Like I was a vendor contract he was terminating. Sloan. Her voice was gentle. That doesn't sound like him. Not the him you've been describing for 6 months. Then I don't know who he is. I picked up the coffee. My hands were steady now. That was worse. Maybe I never did. Sophie stayed until dark. We didn't talk about Kieran. We talked about the documentary, the Q2 forecasts, her sister's wedding. Normal things. Safe things. When she left, the apartment felt twice as empty. I sat in the silence and watched the city lights flicker on, one by one, indifferent. At 11 p.m., my buzzer rang. I didn't answer. It rang again. Then my phone, my personal phone, the number I didn't give to colleagues, lit up with an unknown caller. I answered because I could not answer. Sloan. His voice was rough. Strained. Don't hang up. Please. I said nothing. I'm downstairs. I know you don't want to see me. I know I'm the last person you want to talk to, but I need you to understand what? My voice was flat. Foreign. That you lied? That you let me stand in front of that board and defend work you were already planning to gut? That you smiled at me in the hallway and stocked my pens and made me coffee and kissed me like I mattered while you were drafting the email that would take everything. Silence. Then, I didn't draft that email. Your name is on it. Prescott filed the resolution. He had the votes. I couldn't stop it. You didn't try. I tried. His voice broke. Slightly. Almost imperceptibly. I spent 3 hours on the phone with every board member. I offered concessions. I threatened resignations. I did everything except set the building on fire. A pause. It wasn't enough. I closed my eyes. The city hummed beyond the window. Why didn't you tell me? Because I thought I could fix it. I thought if I just had a few more hours, I could find a loophole, change a vote, something. I didn't want you to spend the night afraid. His voice dropped. I didn't want to see you look at me the way you're looking at me now. You don't know how I'm looking at you. I can hear it. In your silence. A long pause. I've heard it before. From my father. From everyone who ever expected me to be something I couldn't deliver. This isn't about your father. No. It's about me failing the only person I've ever been afraid to lose. The words hung in the air, heavy and raw. I pressed my palm against the wall, steadying myself. What do you want, Kieran? To explain. In person. With no board, no assistants, no carefully worded emails. He paused. And then I want to give you a choice. What choice? Come down. Please. I looked at the door. At the phone in my hand. At the city beyond the glass, indifferent and vast. 10 minutes, I said. I'll be there. He was standing in the lobby, silhouetted against the streetlights. No suit jacket. His sleeves were rolled up, his hair disheveled. He looked like he hadn't slept. He looked like I felt. The resolution, he said, before I could speak. It's not what you think. Then explain it. He took a breath. Prescott didn't target you because of your performance. He targeted you because of me. That's not he knows about us. Not specifics, but enough. He's been watching for months. The dinners, the late nights, the way I look at you in meetings. He saw an opening and he took it. His voice was steady, but his hands were not. The resolution wasn't about restructuring the division. It was about removing you from my influence. Cutting the connection he thinks gives me an advantage. And does it? I asked. Do I give you an advantage? Yes. No hesitation. But not the kind he thinks. You don't make me stronger in negotiations. You make me want to be someone worth choosing. That's not leverage. That's the opposite of leverage. He stepped closer. I should have told you. I should have brought you into the room, shown you the threat, asked you to help me fight. Instead, I tried to protect you by keeping you separate. It was the same mistake I made when I bought Holden. I thought if I just controlled the outcome, I could control the damage. His voice broke. I keep trying to build walls around you. And every time, I just lock you out. Silence. A taxi passed on the street, its headlights sweeping across his face. He looked exhausted. Defeated. Utterly, completely human. The position, I said. Senior Advisor, Creative Development. What does it actually entail? Nothing. Everything. It's a title with no portfolio. His jaw tightened. Prescott created it to sideline you. No operational authority, no direct reports, no budget. You'd be a consultant in name only, brought in for meetings when they need creative input and dismissed when the real decisions are made. And you signed it? I didn't sign it. He met my eyes. The board has authority to restructure executive positions without CEO approval. Prescott filed the resolution. The vote passed. HR processed it. My signature on the notification email is standard protocol. I didn't draft it, I didn't approve it, and I spent 3 hours trying to prevent it. He pulled out his phone, unlocked it, handed it to me. Read the call log. Read the messages. I have nothing left to hide. I took the phone. Scrolled through the night I'd spent waiting. Calls to board members at 8 p.m., 9 p.m., 10 p.m. Messages to his legal team, frantic and fragmented. A draft of a resignation letter, unsent. And then at 4 a.m., a message to himself. I can't lose her. I already have. I just don't know it yet. I handed the phone back. My hand was shaking again. Why didn't you call me? Because I didn't want you to see me lose. His voice was barely audible. Stupid. Prideful. The same instinct that's cost me everything I've ever cared about. He looked at me. I spent 20 years becoming someone who doesn't lose. And then I met you, and suddenly winning wasn't enough. I wanted to deserve you. I wanted to be the man you saw when you looked at me. A pause. But I kept forgetting that man doesn't exist. He's just another version I was performing. The real one, the one who makes mistakes, who fails, who can't control the board or save the woman he loves from his enemies. That's the one standing in front of you now. The word hit me like a physical blow. Loves. He hadn't said it before. Neither had I. We'd danced around it for months, building careful structures of implication and proximity and almost confession. But he'd never said it. Not like this. Not with nothing left to lose. Kieran, I'm not saying this to change your mind. His voice was steady now. Resigned. I'm saying it because you deserve to know. Whatever you decide, whether you stay or leave, whether you ever speak to me again, I need you to understand that none of this was strategy. None of it was acquisition. He met my eyes. You asked me once if I was trying to possess you or prove I could choose you without power. I didn't know the answer then. I do now. A pause. I was trying to prove I could be chosen. Not because I owned you. Because you saw me and didn't look away. The street was quiet. The city had moved on, indifferent to the weight of his confession. I stood in the cold March air, facing the man who had dismantled my life and rebuilt it, who had trapped me in a golden cage and then handed me the key, who had just admitted, in the wreckage of his own failure, that all he ever wanted was to be seen. I need time, I said. I know. I need to think about what I want. Not what's strategic. Not what protects my team or salvages my career. Just what I want. Take all the time you need. No hesitation. No negotiation. Just acceptance. I turned and walked back into my building. I didn't look back. But I also didn't block his number. 3 days. 72 hours of silence, solitude, and the slow, painful process of separating anger from grief and grief from love. I didn't go to the office. Sophie handled my team. Ben handled Sophie. The rumor mill churned, but I didn't care. I sat in my apartment and thought about Kieran Thorne. Not the billionaire. Not the predator. The man who made me coffee and left it warm beside his couch. The man who noticed a loose button on a blazer I'd forgotten I owned. The man who said I can't lose her to himself at 4 a.m. and meant it. On the third night, I called him. I need to see the resolution. A pause. It's on the company server. I can send you no. I need to see it in context. The board vote, the negotiation history, the messages between Prescott and the other members. I paused. I need to understand exactly how this happened. Not because I don't trust you. Because I need to stop being the person things happen to. Another pause. Longer. Tomorrow. 7 a.m. I'll meet you at the office. Your office or mine? Yours, he said. It's where this started. He hung up. I stared at the phone. It was where this started. The first pitch. The midnight email. The auditorium and the contract and the slow, excruciating burn of proximity without permission. It was also where he'd kissed me for the first time, desperate and reverent, like I was something he'd spent his whole life earning. Tomorrow, I would walk into that office and decide if that was the beginning of our story or the end of it. He was waiting. Not at his desk, not pacing, not performing control. He was standing at the window, watching the city wake up. When I entered, he turned. He looked like he'd aged 3 days in 3 years. The files are on my tablet. He gestured to the desk. Full access. No redactions. I didn't move toward it. Why didn't you tell me about Prescott's interest in us? Pride. Fear. The same reasons I didn't tell you about Holden's internal bleeding or Voss's embezzlement or any of the other fires I thought I could extinguish before you got burned. His voice was quiet. I keep trying to be the man who protects you. And I keep becoming the man who hides from you. I don't need protection. I know. I need partnership. Transparency. The truth, even when it's ugly. I know. He met my eyes. I'm learning. It's just slow. And the tuition is everything I'm afraid to lose. I held his gaze. The city brightened behind him, indifferent to the weight of his confession. Show me the files, I said. He did. The resolution was, as he'd claimed, Prescott's work. The language was precise, clinical, designed to appear neutral while achieving maximum damage. But buried in the negotiation history was something else. A message from Prescott to 2 board members, sent 3 hours before the vote. Thorne's attachment to the March woman is a liability. Remove her, and he loses his strategic advantage. Keep her, and we're funding his personal interests, not corporate growth. The choice is clear. Attachment. Not manipulation. Not leverage. Attachment. Prescott had seen what I'd spent months denying. Not a power play. Not a strategy. A man who had fallen so far from his own fortress that he didn't know how to find his way back. I closed the file. He used me against you. Yes. And it worked. A pause. Yes. I looked at him. What do you want to do now? I want to fix it. No hesitation. I've been in contact with 3 board members who are willing to reconsider. The institutional investor who asked about your projections, she's on our side. She's drafting a counter-resolution to restore your position. And Prescott. He's overplayed his hand. The message I just showed you, he sent it to 2 members who are already uncomfortable with his tactics. They're willing to testify to hostile conduct if it comes to that. He paused. It won't come to that. He'll retreat. He always does when the cost exceeds the gain. You're certain? I'm certain of the strategy. His voice dropped. I'm not certain of anything else. Silence. The tablet sat between us, dark and silent. I read your message, I said. The one you sent to yourself at 4 a.m. He stilled. You said you already lost me. You just didn't know it yet. I paused. You were wrong. His breath caught. I'm still here, I said. I'm angry. I'm hurt. I don't trust you the way I did 3 days ago. But I'm here. I stepped closer. That's not losing. That's being given something you haven't earned yet. His eyes were bright, unshielded. Then I'll earn it. I know. I paused. But not by fixing this for me. You don't restore my position. You don't fight Prescott on my behalf. You don't protect me from the consequences of being attached to you. I met his gaze. I fight. I restore my position. I decide what I'm willing to risk and what I'm not. And me? You support me. You tell me the truth. And you stop trying to control outcomes you don't get to decide alone. He was quiet for a long moment. Then, that's harder than fighting. I know. I'll do it anyway. Good. I picked up the tablet. Now show me the counter-resolution. I have edits. The counter-resolution passed in 6 days. Not because of Kieran's influence, he stayed silent through the negotiations, present but not dominant. Because I presented my own case, my own data, my own vision for the division I'd built and the woman I'd become. The institutional investor, her name was Chin, and I would remember it forever, asked the question that decided everything. Ms. March, why should this board restore your authority when we've already demonstrated our willingness to remove it? I looked at her. At the table of men and women who controlled billions. At Kieran, silent in his chair, trusting me to speak for myself. Because you need someone who isn't afraid of you, I said. You need a leader who will tell you when your strategies are wrong, when your assumptions are outdated, when your pursuit of control is actively damaging the assets you're trying to protect. I paused. I've spent 6 months proving I can do that. Not by fighting you, but by building something you couldn't afford to lose. The question isn't whether I deserve this position. It's whether you deserve someone who won't lie to you. Silence. Then Chin nodded. The resolution passes. Prescott left before the vote was certified. His resignation was on my desk by end of day. I didn't frame it. I filed it. Work to do. That night, Kieran waited outside my office. Not inside. Not looming. Just present, leaning against the wall, hands in his pockets. You were undeniable, he said. I know. I didn't help you. I didn't ask you to. I wanted to. His voice was quiet. Every second of that meeting, I wanted to stand up and tell them exactly what you've done for this company. For me. For everyone who's ever underestimated you. Why didn't you? Because you told me not to. He met my eyes. And I'm done deciding what you need without asking you first. Something shifted in my chest. Not forgiveness. That was still forming, slow and cautious. But something else. Recognition. I'm going home, I said. I'll walk you. It wasn't a question. It wasn't a demand. It was an offer. Okay. We walked through the empty corridors, past the glass offices and silent workstations. The city glittered beyond the windows, indifferent and vast. At the elevator, he stopped. I'm not going to ask you to trust me again. Not yet. His voice was steady. Trust isn't something you give because someone asks. It's something you build. I broke it. I need to earn it back. How? By showing up. Telling the truth. Not controlling the outcome. He paused. For as long as it takes. The elevator doors opened. I stepped inside. He didn't follow. The doors began to close. Kieran. He looked up. Tomorrow. Coffee. My office. I paused. You bring it. I'll decide if it's hot enough. His smile was small, fragile, the most honest thing I'd ever seen on his face. I'll get it right this time. The doors closed. I rode down 40 floors alone. My reflection in the polished steel was steady. Not certain. Not healed. But here. Still here. Choosing it. The coffee arrived at 6:58 a.m. Perfect temperature. My preferred roast. A small pastry beside it, still warm, dusted with powdered sugar. No note. I took a sip. It was, as promised, exactly right. He didn't ask if I liked it. He didn't hover in the doorway. He just set it on my desk, nodded once, and walked away. This was the new rhythm. Small offerings, no expectations. Presence without pressure. He was learning to show up without demanding acknowledgement. I was learning to receive without calculating the cost. Sophie noticed the pastries accumulating on my desk. Is he trying to feed you into forgiveness? He's trying to prove he remembers how I take my coffee. Same thing. She stole a croissant. Is it working? I looked at the growing collection. At the man who now waited for me to come to him instead of cornering me in hallways. At the space between us that was no longer a battlefield but something else. Something we were building, slowly, without blueprints. It's a start, I said. 3 weeks. 21 days of coffee and quiet conversations and the careful, patient work of rebuilding trust from foundation up. No grand gestures. No declarations. Just consistency. He told me about his mother's second phone call. She was in therapy now, trying to understand why she'd left. He told me about the deal he'd lost at 27, the one that taught him that winning was the only acceptable outcome. He told me about the photograph on his desk, face down, the one I'd never asked about. It's my father, he said. At his first company. Before he sold it. Before he became someone who measured success in quarterly returns and distance from vulnerability. A pause. I keep it face down because I'm afraid I've already become him. I didn't tell him he hadn't. He wasn't ready to hear it yet. Instead, I said, my father left when I was 8. No calls, no letters, no therapy. Just absence. I paused. I spent 15 years trying to be someone who wouldn't be left. I thought if I was successful enough, independent enough in every measurable way, no one would have a reason to go. And now? Now I'm learning that people don't leave because you're not enough. They leave because they don't know how to stay. I met his eyes. Staying is a skill. Like any other skill, it requires practice. He was quiet for a long moment. Then, I'm practicing. I know. The Q2 earnings exceeded projections by 22%. My division was officially the highest performing unit in Thorn Media Group. The board sent congratulations. Chin called personally to discuss expansion opportunities. I took the call at my desk, watching the city shift through late afternoon light. Afterward, I walked to his office. He was at the window, as always. But when I entered, he turned. His expression wasn't guarded. It was open. Expectant. Not waiting for me to perform some specific role, just waiting for me, as I was. We need to talk about the structure, I said. His attention sharpened. What structure? Mine. Yours. Ours. I sat in the chair across from his desk. Not the visitor's chair. The one I'd claimed over months of late nights and quiet conversations. The current arrangement isn't sustainable. His jaw tightened. If this is about the coffee, it's about the power. I held his gaze. You're my boss. Professionally, that's a fact. Personally, it's a complication. I can't keep receiving small kindnesses from you while we both pretend they don't mean something. He was very still. What are you saying? I'm saying we need a new framework. I paused. One where my choices aren't influenced by your authority. Where I stay because I want to, not because leaving would cost me everything I've built. And if I can't give you that framework, then we continue as we are. Stalled. Waiting for something to change without either of us being willing to change it. I met his eyes. I don't want to wait anymore. Silence. The city hummed beyond the glass. Then, what do you need from me? The question was simple. Direct. No deflection, no negotiation. Just an offer to receive my terms. I need you to stop being my boss. His expression flickered. Not shock, he'd anticipated this on some level. But something else. Fear, maybe. Or hope? I'm not resigning, I continued. I'm restructuring. My division reports to the board now, not to Thorn Industries. Chin has already approved the transition. It removes the direct reporting line without disrupting operations. You've been planning this. For 3 weeks. Since the counter-resolution passed. I paused. I needed to know I could build something independent. Something that wasn't dependent on your approval or protection. And you have. Yes. I held his gaze. Now I need to know if you can meet me outside that structure. Not as my boss. Not as my benefactor. Just as the man who makes my coffee at 6:58 a.m. and waits for me to decide if it's hot enough. He was quiet for a long moment. Then he stood, walked around the desk, and sat in the chair beside mine. Not the CEO position. Not the power seat. Just a chair, pulled close at eye level. The restructuring, he said. You've already filed the paperwork? It's pending board approval. Chin is shepherding it through. And if I opposed it? You won't. No. His voice was quiet. I won't. He looked at me. 3 months ago, I would have fought this. Found a loophole, a leverage point, a way to keep you within my influence. I would have told myself it was protection. Strategy. The best outcome for both of us. A pause. It would have been control. Dressed in good intentions. And now? Now I understand that control isn't the same as connection. I can't possess you and claim to love you. They're opposite impulses. He met my eyes. I've spent 20 years mastering the first. I'm still learning the second. I didn't speak. Didn't move. Just let his words settle into the space between us. The restructuring is a good framework, he said. Professional independence. Personal choice. No power imbalance. A pause. It's what you deserve. What I should have given you from the beginning. And us. That's your choice. His voice was steady. You told me once that staying is a skill. I'm practicing. But the decision to stay, that's never been mine. It's always been yours. The city continued its indifferent hum. The light shifted, gold to amber. I looked at the man beside me, not the predator, not the billionaire, not the CEO. Just Kieran. Learning to wait. Learning to ask. Learning to receive instead of take. I'm not going anywhere, I said. His breath caught. But I need you to understand something. I held his gaze. I'm not staying because you've earned it. You haven't. Not yet. Trust takes longer than 3 weeks to rebuild. I paused. I'm staying because I want to. Because the woman I've become doesn't run from things that scare her. And this, scares me more than anything I've ever faced. Then why? Because scared and unwilling aren't the same thing. I reached out. My hand covered his. I'm scared. I'm also here. Those two things can coexist. His fingers turned, interlacing with mine. Gentle. Reverent. Then we coexist, he said. For as long as it takes. Agreed. We sat in silence, hands intertwined, watching the city darken. No agenda. No strategy. Just two people learning to stay. The restructuring was approved on a Thursday. Chin called personally to deliver the news, unanimous vote. Effective immediately, March Media now existed as an independent subsidiary with direct board oversight and no reporting line to Thorne Industries. I was, for the first time in 7 months, no longer Kieran Thorne's employee. I sat at my desk, the phone still warm in my hand, and tried to feel the weight of that freedom. It was lighter than I expected. Or maybe I'd been carrying it for so long I'd forgotten what it felt like unburdened. Sophie appeared in my doorway, already crying. You did it. We did it. No, you did it. You walked into the lion's den and taught him to eat salad. She pulled me into a hug, fierce and damp. I'm so proud of you I could vomit. That's disgusting. I know. It's how I show love. She released me, wiping her eyes. So what now? You're independent. He's not your boss. The power imbalance is officially resolved. She raised an eyebrow. What are you going to do with all that equality? I didn't answer. I didn't need to. She saw it in my face anyway. Oh my God. You're going to go get your man, aren't you? He's not my man. He's been your man since he watched you adjust your bra in a car window and decided that was the woman he wanted to spend the rest of his life annoying. She pushed me toward the door. Go. Claim him. Use words or don't, I don't care, just go. I went. His office door was open. He was at his desk, but he wasn't working. He was just sitting, hands still, watching the door like he'd been waiting for me to walk through it. You heard, I said. Chin copied me on the vote. His voice was careful. Controlled. Congratulations. You're officially no longer my subordinate. Officially. I stepped inside. Closed the door behind me. Unofficially, I never was. A pause. His eyes held mine. What were you then? Your adversary. Your partner. Your conscience. I moved closer. Your mirror. Showing you everything you didn't want to see about yourself until you had no choice but to look. And now? Now I'm just someone who stayed. I stopped in front of his desk. Who keeps staying? Not because she has to. Because she wants to. He stood. Slowly, carefully, like any sudden movement might shatter the moment. Sloane, I'm not finished. My voice was steady. You spent 7 months trying to possess me. You acquired my company, dismantled my independence, trapped me in a golden cage, and called it partnership. I spent 7 months fighting you, refusing to be owned, proving that I could win on your territory with your rules. I paused. We both made mistakes. You tried to control outcomes that weren't yours to control. I refused to admit that being wanted isn't the same as being diminished. His breath was shallow, audible. And now? Now I'm done fighting you. I stepped closer. I'm also done fighting myself. I want you. I've wanted you since you looked at me in that conference room and told me to wear the suit that made me look like I was already in charge. I wanted you when you bought Holden and made me your trophy. I wanted you when you handed me the key to my own cage and waited for me to decide what to do with it. I reached out. My hand touched his chest, feeling the rapid, uneven rhythm beneath his shirt. I want you now. Not because you've earned it. Not because you've atoned for every manipulation and power play and moment of arrogance. But because wanting you has never been about what you deserve. It's about what I choose. His hand covered mine. His eyes were bright, unguarded, utterly vulnerable. Then choose me. His voice was barely audible. Please. Choose me. I rose on my toes and kissed him. Not gentle. Not reverent. This was not the kiss of surrender or forgiveness. This was the kiss of a woman who had spent 7 months refusing to admit she was already home. His arms closed around me, pulling me against him, and I felt the tension drain from his body, not defeat, not resignation, but relief. The relief of someone who had been holding his breath for so long he'd forgotten what air felt like. When we finally broke apart, his forehead rested against mine. I thought I lost you. His voice was rough. When you blocked my number. When you looked at me like I was just another man who'd failed you. I thought. He stopped. Swallowed. I thought I'd finally become my father. Someone who destroys everything he claims to love. You're not your father. I know. Now. His thumb traced my jaw. Because you stayed. You fought. You refused to let me become the man I was afraid I already was. That's not why I stayed. Then why? I looked at him. This man who had dismantled my life and rebuilt it, who had trapped me and freed me, who had spent 7 months learning to ask instead of take. Because you saw me, I said. Not the CEO. Not the woman who never sleeps or the strategist who never loses. Just me. With lettuce in my teeth and a broken heel and a loose button on my blazer. You saw me, and you didn't look away. I paused. No one has ever seen me like that. Not my father, who left before I learned to speak. Not the partners who valued my output, but not my presence. Not even myself most days. His hand moved to my face, cradling my jaw with impossible gentleness. Then I'll spend the rest of my life making sure you never doubt it again. That's a lot of mornings. I'm very dedicated. He smiled. Small, fragile, utterly real. Also, I've already memorized your coffee order. The hard part is over. I laughed. Actually laughed, standing in the center of his office, his hands on my face, the city sprawling beneath us. It was the first time I'd laughed without reservation in months. The hard part, I said, is just beginning. I know. His thumb swept across my cheekbone. But I'm not going anywhere. He paused. Unless you ask me to. I won't. Good. He kissed me again. Soft. Slow. A promise. Then I'll stay. We told Sophie first. She screamed, cried, and immediately began planning the wedding. It'll be small, I said. Intimate, she corrected. Maybe a garden venue. Late spring. You in cream, him in navy, everyone crying. Sophie, I've been waiting for this since you tripped into the office with a broken heel and a face full of fury. You don't get to deny me the floral arrangements. Kieran, standing beside me, looked faintly alarmed. Floral arrangements? Don't worry. I'll handle everything. You just show up and look devastating. She patted his arm. You're very good at that. We told Ben next. He shook Kieran's hand, looked him in the eye, and said, If you hurt her again, I will bury you in spreadsheets so complex your grandchildren will still be reconciling the accounts. Kieran didn't flinch. Understood. Ben nodded. Good. Welcome to the family. The news spread, as news does, through the carefully calibrated channels of office gossip. By Friday, the sticky note on my desk had been updated. Miss Lettuce was crossed out. Below it, in careful script, Mrs. Thorne? I left it. Kieran saw it when he came to bring my coffee. He smiled. Didn't comment. But when I returned from a meeting, the note had been amended. Below Mrs. Thorne? In his sharp, precise handwriting, only if she says yes. I stared at it for a long time. Then I took a photo and saved it to my phone. Not as leverage. As evidence. Proof that the man who once tried to own me was now content to wait for my answer. The answer came 6 weeks later. Not to a question he hadn't asked, not yet, though the possibility hung between us like morning light, patient and inevitable. It came to a question I asked myself. Alone in my apartment, the city glittering beyond the window, I looked at the contract I'd signed 7 months ago. The golden chain. The gilded cage. And I realized I wasn't trapped anymore. I never had been. The cage was unlocked from the beginning. I just hadn't believed I was allowed to leave. Or, harder still, I hadn't wanted to. I picked up my phone. Me, are you free? Katie, for you? Always. Me, I need to tell you something. In person. Katie, I'll be there in 20 minutes. He was there in 14. I opened the door. He stood in the hallway, slightly breathless, his hair disheveled like he'd run his hands through it a dozen times. He looked terrified. He looked hopeful. He looked at me like I was the answer to a question he'd been asking his whole life. I'm not going to propose, I said. His expression flickered. Okay. I'm not going to ask you to spend the rest of your life with me or make grand declarations about forever. I paused. Because I don't know what forever looks like. I don't know if we'll still want each other in 5 years or 10 years, or when we're old and gray and arguing about whose turn it is to adjust the thermostat. I stepped closer. But I know what I want right now. Today. Tomorrow. The day after that. I reached out. My hand found his. I want you. Not as an acquisition. Not as a trophy. Not as proof that I've won some game I didn't agree to play. I held his gaze. I want you as my partner. My equal. The man who brings me coffee at 6:58 a.m. and stocks my pens and notices when my blazer button is loose. A pause. The man who learned to wait when every instinct told him to take. His grip tightened on mine. His eyes were bright. That's all I've ever wanted, he said. To be chosen. Not because I could buy everything. Because someone looked at me and saw something worth staying for. I see you. My voice was steady. I've always seen you. Even when I was fighting you. Even when I was running from you. Even when I convinced myself that wanting you was surrender instead of choice. I stepped into him, close enough to feel the warmth of his breath, the rapid rhythm of his heart. I'm not running anymore. His hand moved to my face, cradling my jaw with the same impossible gentleness I'd felt in his office a lifetime ago. Then stay. His voice broke on the word. Please. Stay. I kissed him. Soft. Slow. A promise. Always. We didn't get married in a garden. We got married in the Thorne Industries auditorium, standing on the same stage where he'd announced my promotion 7 months ago. Sophie cried through the entire ceremony. Ben officiated, having obtained a license online and practiced his delivery on an unimpressed cat. Chin sat in the front row, her expression inscrutable, though I caught her smiling when the vows began. Kieran wore navy. I wore cream. The floral arrangements were, as promised, exquisite. We're not here to promise we'll never change, Ben said, his voice steady. We're here to promise we'll change together. That when power shifts and circumstances shift and the easy answers become complicated questions, we'll still choose each other. He looked at us. Sloane and Kieran have spent the past 8 months learning to do exactly that. Not because it was easy. Because it mattered. He paused. It still matters. It always will. Kieran took my hands. His grip was steady. His eyes were certain. I spent 20 years believing that control was the only form of security, he said. That if I could just acquire enough, achieve enough, become enough, I would never have to face the fear of being left. of being seen and found wanting. His thumb traced across my knuckles. Then you looked at me. Not at my money or my power or my reputation. At me. And you didn't look away. He paused. You taught me that security isn't control. It's trust. It's choosing someone and trusting them to choose you back every day without leverage or guarantees. His voice dropped. I choose you, Sloane. Today and every day. Not because I need you. Because I want you. Because the man I become when I'm with you is someone worth being. I couldn't speak. My throat was too full, my eyes too bright. I held his hands and let the silence stretch, gathering myself, gathering the words I'd waited my whole life to say. I spent 10 years building armor, I finally said. I told myself independence was the only protection. That needing someone was weakness. That wanting someone was surrender. I paused. Then you dismantled my company and told me I was now your employee, and I decided you were the most infuriating man I'd ever met. A ripple of laughter through the audience. Kieran's smile was soft, unguarded. I spent 7 months fighting you. Fighting myself. Fighting the impossible, inconvenient truth that you weren't my enemy, you were just someone who didn't know how to love without leverage. I squeezed his hands. You learned. Slowly. Painfully. With more setbacks than either of us want to count. I paused. But you learned. You stopped taking and started asking. You stopped controlling and started trusting. You stopped trying to own me and started trying to deserve me. His breath caught. And you did, I said. Not because you're perfect. Not because you'll never fail again. But because you stayed. You kept showing up, even when I blocked your number and refused your calls and told myself I was done with you. I met his eyes. That's what I want. Not a man who never breaks things. A man who stays to help rebuild them. I paused. I choose you, Kieran. Not despite your failures. Because of what you did after them. Silence. The auditorium held its breath. Then Ben said, quietly, by the power vested in me by the internet and a very patient cat, I now pronounce you partners. We kissed. Not for the audience. Not for the cameras. For us. For the woman who had spent her whole life refusing to be owned, and the man who had spent his whole life owning everything except himself. We kissed, and the applause rose around us, and the city hummed beyond the glass, indifferent and eternal. It didn't matter. We had each other. That was enough. That was everything. Later, after the flowers were cleared and the guests departed and Sophie had cried through her 4th toast, we stood alone on the roof where he'd shown me the first snow. The city sprawled below, a galaxy of light and motion. He stood beside me, his hand in mine, his presence steady and warm. You know, I said, I never actually got to adjust my bra in your car window again. He laughed. I've been waiting 8 months for you to bring that up. It's a significant omission. Very disappointing service. I'll have my assistant schedule a car. Tinted windows. Lettuce-free environment. You're mocking me. I'm courting you. He turned to face me. There's a difference. His voice softened. I spent so long trying to impress you. The acquisitions, the power plays, the calculated gestures. I thought if I could just show you how capable I was, how successful, how worthy, you would finally see me. He paused. And all along, you were already seeing me. Not because of what I did. Because of who I was. Even when who I was kept getting in the way. You're not getting in the way now. No. His thumb traced across my knuckles. Now I'm just here. With you. Choosing you. Choosing you, I echoed. The city glittered below, indifferent and vast. But we weren't indifferent. We were here, together, present in a way neither of us had ever been before. No armor. No strategy. Just 2 people learning to stay. This is the part where the movie ends, I said. This is the part where they walk into the sunset and you assume they live happily ever after. This isn't a movie. No. I looked at him. This is real. Which means there's no guarantee. No script. No certainty that we won't fail each other again. I paused. It also means that every day we choose each other is a choice. Not fate. Not destiny. Just 2 people, deciding that this is worth the risk. He was quiet for a long moment. Then, that's not the ending. What? The ending isn't the wedding. The ending isn't the sunset or the credits or the assumption of forever. He turned to face me fully. The ending is this moment. Right now. Two people who have fought and failed and forgiven each other, standing on a roof, choosing each other again. He paused. And then tomorrow, they do it again. And the day after that. And the day after that. His voice dropped. That's the story. Not the acquisition. Not the victory. The staying. I looked at him. At the man who had tried to own me and learn to love me, who had spent 8 months dismantling his own walls brick by brick. Who is now, in this moment, offering me not a promise of forever but a commitment to today. Then we stay, I said. Today. Tomorrow. The day after that. I squeezed his hand. And we figure out the rest as we go. He smiled. Not the controlled, calculated smile of the man who had once emailed me at 3:17 a.m. But something else. Something real. Together, he said. Together. The city continued its eternal hum. The stars, indifferent, wheeled overhead. But we weren't indifferent. We were here. Choosing. Staying. Building something that might last or might not, that might break or might hold, that might become the foundation of a life or simply a beautiful, fleeting moment. Either way, it was ours. Either way, it was enough. His hand found mine. We stood in silence, watching the city breathe. No words. No promises. Just presence. Just choice. Just two people, finally home.